a moment for Halifax Rugby League.
Austin is through and Warrington dominating. Great try for the Robins. Huddersfield Giants take the points home. It's Vincent! It's a poor lad. That is one sensational try.
Look out with a drop goal. Leeds gather round in jubilation.
He's hit the post. It's Wellesby. Wellesby might have got the try. St Helens are champions once again.
Good evening, welcome to The Last Tackle, your one-stop shop for everything Rugby League. Delighted to be joined for the next 40 minutes or so by St Helens Great Britain legend Paul Sculthorpe and Daily Mirror Rugby League writer Gareth Walker. And Gareth, I imagine your keyboard would have been busy yesterday. Big news, of course, in the Betfred Super League. Jackson Hastings returning to the NRL. He signed a 2-year deal with the West Tigers. That's big news, isn't it, for Wigan?
It is, yeah, and it brings to end a bit of a saga, doesn't it? I mean, we had a lot of speculation about Jackson Hastings' future, but at the same time, no huge surprise. You know, he's always said that he did want to go back and test himself in the NRL, and I think it's a situation that will benefit all parties. I think everyone knows where they're going now. You know, Wigan know that they will need another halfback next year. He knows exactly where he's going to be. I don't think he's the kind of player that will let it affect his performances at all. In fact, it might even raise them if he wants to finish on a high. So I think it's a good outcome for all parties to get it sorted at this stage.
And Scully, he was Man of Steel winner, of course, in 2019. He had that fantastic season with Salford. He's really set the Super League alight at times, hasn't he, over the last 2 years or so?
He certainly has. He was outstanding, wasn't he, at Salford? And then obviously, you know, Wigan seen that and took him on board. And you know, I agree with Gareth. You know, I'm glad it's out. You know, Jackson's never hid his wish to go and play back in the NRL, and opportunities come up with Western, and he's took it. But I'm the same. I think he'll now give everything to finish as strong as he can for Wigan.
When you're in that environment, that team environment, and you've got a player, especially a key player like Jackson, and there's a lot of speculation about it, what they're going to do next season, are they coming or going? Can that be disruptive to the team?
I think it can be if obviously it's something that's forever being talked about and players are refusing to speak about it or denying. I think this is the best way if a player has a wish to do that for the following year, but he's fully committed for the year that he's here. You know, get the deal done. You know, Wigan did it with George Williams as well. You know, going to Canberra, they knew where they were at, and then the following year, obviously they've just renewed Harry Smith on a new 4-year deal, which is great news for Wigan, and obviously there's a natural progression there.
And that's a really big signing for them, isn't it? The Harry Smith deal, Gareth, because he's a player that's really shown potential over the last year or so. Probably one of those players that benefited from the situation last season, probably got more game time than he perhaps would have done, and has really come on. 4-year deal they've timed him down for. They'll be very happy with that business, won't they?
Yeah, definitely, and I don't think it's a coincidence, the timing of those signings, because while they're losing Hastings, it's good for the Wigan fans to hear that Harry Smith is committed long-term to the club. They've tied him down. They clearly see it's clear that the ability that he's got and the potential to improve in future. So to have his long-term future sorted, I think will soften the blow with Hastings a bit and shows Wigan fans that, Harry Smith's a player that's going to be important to that club for some time.
Well, that was the big off-field news this week. On the field, in the Super League, the original and best Super League, which is the last we will say about that today. It was another fantastic week, and what a game on Friday night. Hull KR versus Huddersfield. Hull KR very quickly becoming the most entertaining team to watch in the league. These are the highlights from that game. It was an absolute cracker.
That either Rovers, Wakefield or Leeds Centurions will go down. Jordan Abdul will get us underway. Pressure on both, and then an early mistake, and it could well be an early try for Ben Crooks. Too quick, full stop. King at dummy half, and Abdul, Mikey Lewis with a kick forward, and Ben Crooks with a second try has really stepped up. Tony Smith is hopeful that Takarangi will make his debut here against Leeds next week. But what about this? And it is the man, and it is Mikey Lewis, and it is a try, and it is under the post. Important last play. Cogger misses one out to the far side. Chance in for McGilvray.
I find those two things really difficult to reconcile.
Well, Kenny Edwards now. It's a beautiful pass for Gaskell. Gaskell with the kick towards the corner. Picked up by McIntosh. Trying to exploit that right side Rovers defence as Gaskell with the ball for Wardle. Wardle goes for the line, and Wardle goes over. What can Huddersfield come up with on the last tackle? Clip forward for McGowan. McQueen's dropped the ball. That's unbelievable.
Key question that Ian Watson would have been asking his players: can you run harder than your opponents in this second half?
Oh, that's a mistake from McGilvray. Chance for Kane Linnett, and Kane Linnett does get the try. A thriller, isn't it? And here he goes again. Cogger sees the Gaskell, those three names. The break from Wardle. Wardle's through. He's got support from McIntosh. And McIntosh will dive over. Centimetre he can get. Where's it going? Abdul now with a chance to perhaps win it for Hodkinson Rovers. And there is the goal. A drop goal from Jordan Abdul.
Gareth, I can't imagine it's particularly healthy being a Hull KR supporter at the moment.
No, it's certainly exciting, isn't it? I'd actually been at Saints that night, so I drove home and got back just in time for the finale, and it was kind of a here we go again with Hull KR, wasn't it? I think the biggest thing out of that match for me is that they managed to win it. You know, they'd had that Catalans game when they fought back, lost by golden point to Castleford in the Cup, a game that they probably should have won. I think if it had happened to them again, what that would have done to their confidence would have been pretty tough. Instead, they found a way to win. Jordan Abdul coming up with the winner. And I think that will be a great benefit to Hull KR moving forward now.
And a world record as well. The fastest ever try scored. 7 seconds it took Ben Crooks. Is that the kind of thing where just everything that's been said before the game immediately goes out the window, Scully?
Yeah, it's I don't think the Huddersfield coach Ian Watson would have been too pleased with that. You know, that's certainly that record of the fastest ever try against his team. Just a lapse in concentration from the Huddersfield players, and fair play to Ben Crooks. You know, he chased the kick hard, and he's now in the record books.
What do you make of Huddersfield so far, Gareth? Because this is not a situation I expected them to be in 3 games into the Super League season. With Ian Watson coming in and the players he's signed, they're just not hitting the straps at the moment, are they?
No, they're not, and I think most people would have expected them to start a bit better. I think that's fair to say. Obviously, Aidan Caesar has been missing before this last weekend, and he's their key man. That might have played a part in it. He was back against Hull KR, and still they've lost. But I think with Ian Watson, it was always going to be a longer-term project. I think he would say that himself. He's got a vision of where he wants the club to go. He'd probably change the way they play a bit under him. It might take them a bit of time. So yes, I was surprised by the fact that they're sitting on 3 defeats from 3, but I would expect some improvement in the next few coming weeks now.
Well, what a game that was on Friday night, a real blockbuster. Let's take a look at the rest of the action now from round 3 of the Betfred Super League. Wigan kept their 100% record intact with a hard-fought win over Leeds, with Liam Farrell opening the scoring.
Bullets out to Hastings, Hastings to Farrell, Farrell running, Farrell for the line!
Zach Ardacre has earned plenty of plaudits this season, and the fullback's name was in lights again, finishing off this fantastic solo effort before half-time.
He will chase it, there is space there, he'll get it!
The Rhinos struck back after the break. Luke Briscoe's offload, creating space for Mellor to score.
Luke Briscoe, lovely pass back on the inside to Alex Mellor.
Jackson Hastings then showed Wigan fans what they'll be missing next year, scoring 1 and turning provider for Farrell as the Warriors claim the win.
Jacob on the books at Warrington in actual fact. Here's Hastings now. Hastings, lovely pass for Farrell. Farrell will get his second of the game.
Wakefield had St Helens scoreless at half-time, but the Saints wasted no time putting that right after the break. James Bentley's try, adding to Naguama's effort.
He gets the ball away. Theo Farge up the middle. Can he get past Hampshire? Might not need to. Gets the ball away. Bentley going for the line. Cuts inside. And it will be a second try. Just a couple of minutes for St Helens. Out with Arundel. Good work. Here now is Coote. Swings it across to Farge. Farge looks out the back to Roby. Roby's got Lomax with him. They're going from side to side. Little kick to the corner. It's a great kick.
By this point, champions are rampant. Regan Grace finishing off this long-range effort as the Saints ease to victory.
Straight up the middle, can Wellsby get there? He's got support on his outside, he should have passed, he did pass. Here's Regan Grace, cutting in, reaching for the line.
Castleford have been one of the standout sides this season, and they flew out of the blocks again against Lee Centurions.
Tony won't be stopped. What a score from Watts. Truman into the line. Gareth O'Brien joining in, they're going to have a free run in the far corner for Daryl Alford.
It was a dominant first half performance, And by the time Evans crossed with this effort with 7 minutes left in the half, the result already looked like a formality. The Centurions did get themselves on the board, but the best was yet to come for Cas. Truman finishing off one of the tries of the season so far.
Truman, that is the try of the match.
Catalans continue their strong start to the season with a convincing win over Salford. Garcia opened the scoring before Sam Tompkins sliced open the defence to put Lange in. Yaha increased the lead after the break, and by the time Harvey Levett got Salford on the board, the result was beyond all doubt.
Levett charging for the line, and Harvey Levett hasn't got that ball down.
Hull FC and Warrington made Super League history on Sunday by playing out the first ever Golden Point draw.
Can he pick the pass? Goes past the fullback, gets the ball away to Connor. Oh, that's brilliant from Hull.
There was nearly an hour gone when the first try was scored by Jake Connor, before Chris Hill levelled things up after a brilliant offload from Clark.
Iced his way through, brilliant offload, and they are in.
FC thought they had it won after Tumavavi scored in the corner.
It's a pass, tipped on, brilliant tip on. Savelio gives it for Tumavavi.
But Jake Mamo popped up on the hooter to send it to Golden Point.
Now Ratchford, it's all a little bit lateral. Mamo's through, Mamo stumbling to the line.
Neither team could score, however, and the points were shared in Hull. Yeah, Wigan still unbeaten in the Betfred Super League, and I tell you what, Gareth, Zach Hardacre, he will be very, very happy with his opening few weeks of this year, won't he?
Yeah, tremendous form he's in, isn't it? I mean, he's playing fullback with Bevan French's return, having been delayed, and it looks like he's never been away from that position, doesn't he? He's been so integral to everything they've done. We all know he's a defensively great fullback, but with the ball as well, the vision he showed to score that try at the end of the first half when he kicked in behind was fantastic, and he's one of a number of players that's going to give Sean Wayne some headaches if he carries on playing like that all year.
Well, Sean Wayne, but Adrian Morley has got a bit of a Stoku puzzle to do in that spine, hasn't he, with French coming back. Do you keep Hardacre in at fullback? He's playing too well to drop, isn't he?
Zach Hardacre has always been a fullback in my eyes, and he's always been a world-class fullback, and that is his position. He's a completely different player in the centre, and I just think you lose so much by moving him. But then again, we look at Bevan French in the year he had last year. I don't know how you fit them all in, and thankfully for Wigan in 2022, Jackson Hastings is leaving. It makes it one job easier. But Zach, for me, has been in tremendous form. As Gareth said, he's solid on D, but he's just his knowledge and his awareness on attack, and one of the best supporting fullbacks within our game.
And Leeds, Gareth, have almost got the opposite problem. They've got so many players out injured at the moment. There's some suggestion they may have as many as five back for this week, but considering the people that they're missing, I thought they did well in that game to just stick with Wigan for as long as they did.
Yeah, the last two games, the cup tie against St Helens as well, they had a real crack, hadn't they? And that'll be encouraging to Richard Agar. I think he was missing 11 first team players in total, but 7 of the first 13, so we're talking about frontline players, and I think he'll have been pleased with the attitude of the guys that have come in, and as the season goes on, having that depth in his squad should help them.
And Scully, a bit of an unusual one from Saints this week, 0-0 at half time, but it just looked in that second half, didn't it, that Wakefield just ran out of steam a little bit. It's difficult to stay at that pace with St Helens for 80 minutes.
Yeah, it was certainly a game of two halves, wasn't it? All credit to Wakey in that first half. But as you said, as soon as that roll started, Saints just put the foot down, and it's a difficult juggernaut to stop when they're on the front foot. You look at some of the tries and the pace that they played at, hitting the holes at speed, and it was a tough second half for Wakefield.
Difficult to make a case at the moment, Gareth, isn't it, that Saints aren't going to go 3 in a row?
Yeah, they've got that champion look about them. They do all the small things well. They look so solid again. And then, as Paul says, when they sense blood and they get that roll on, they can take matches away from teams. I think it's been great to see Jack Wellsby playing every week. When they're all fit they're going to have some headaches in terms of their back line. But the way Jack Wellsby playing, whether it's at full-back or centre, he's demanding to be picked. And in terms of England, again, long-term, it's terrific to see another homegrown young player performing so well.
And he's already, of course, been immortalised by that try at the end of last season. But against Wakefield, he scored once, 2 assists, 149 metres, stats that anyone would have been happy with.
Yeah, he was terrific, and he's been that way every week this year. I've seen them play quite a bit since already. And he's becoming an influential, prominent member of the team at such a young age, which bodes well for his future, doesn't it?
And Wakefield, Gareth, another one a little bit like Hull KR. They've shown glimpses of what they can do this season. I don't think they're that far off.
Yeah, I mean, I was at that game, and they fully deserved to be level at half-time. It was 0-0. They had a real crack up front. Joe Westham in particular took the game to Saints. But as Chris Chester has mentioned, when something goes against them, it then seems to snowball, and they're not particularly coping well with moments of adversity in the game. That's the key, I think, to turning their season around, because when they're playing well, they'll compete with most teams.
Castleford versus Lee, Scully. It's looking ominous for Lee already, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I think it looked ominous, didn't it, before the ball was kicked in. Obviously, they've not got the biggest of squads, and obviously it was a late recruitment drive, obviously from their introduction into Super League. So it certainly looks like a tough campaign for John Duffy and his team.
And we always talk about classy Cass, Gareth. They lead the league with 22 tries, 6,431 metres, 173 tackle busts, 30 clean breaks, 55 offloads. They are top of the charts in all of those areas. It just shows the expansive and exciting brand of football they're playing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's perhaps a bit early to be talking about 2017 and that dominant year they had, but the signs for Darryl Powell will be really good, I think, the way they're playing. And with his announcement as well, you know, that he's leaving the club, how do they react to that? I think the players have answered that question already. They're fully behind him, and they look like a genuine threat this year.
Catalans could be, I feel like we say this every year about this time of year, but this could be a year they make a serious title challenge.
Well, they've got one of the form players in the competition, haven't they? And Sam Tompkins, he's been in sparkling form. And if he's playing well, and James Maloney looks like he's going to be better this year than he was last year, if those two are playing at the top of the game and you throw McAloran back in there this weekend, then that's a terrific spine, isn't it? If they can win on the road regularly, that's the thing we always talk about, isn't it? Then, of course, they can compete with any team in that competition.
And Salford, on the other hand, Scully, it's not going to be panic stations yet, it's only round 3, but they need to start showing a little bit more, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I was watching their game, you know, from last weekend, and you know, some of the defence was terrible. You know, Richard Marshall will certainly be working on that. You know, there has been big changes, you know, throughout the coaching staff and the playing staff. There's been a lot of changes within Salford from last year, but you know, they certainly need to up the game now.
And then Sunday evening, a bit of Super League history, the first ever Golden Point draw. If I said to you when you were playing Scully that you'd have to play 90 minutes, we'll play an extra 10 to find a winner, and then if we still can't find a winner, we'll just call it a day.
Yeah, it's not often, is it, that it goes the full 10 minutes of Golden Point, and certainly, you know, with the likes of Blake Austin and Matt Sneed on the field as well. You know, they both love a drop goal, and both had a few cracks, but yeah, so they, you know, obviously share the spoils, and I think Warrington will just be so disappointed with their performances so far this year. You know, they've got a lot of money spent on that team, you know, a lot of talent on paper, but it's just not performing at the moment.
We're going to keep talking about Greg Inglis, I feel, until we finally see him this year, Gareth. But actually, when I look at that Warrington line, I don't think I could drop either of their centres on the last couple of weeks' performances.
Well, they've been arguably two of the better players, haven't they, Toby King and Jake Mamo? I mean, Mamo came up with a massive play. It looked for all money that Hull had won that game. You know, they were counting down the clock last couple of seconds. Mamo stepped through a couple of tackles and gave Warrington a lifeline, really. So, you know, he's going to have some decisions to make, Steve Price, when Greg Inglis comes in. I think we're all looking forward to it. We want to see which version of Greg Inglis we're going to get, because if it's anything like his best, it's going to be exciting for the whole competition. Well,
will we see him this week? It kicks off this week action around 4. Thursday, evening, Wigan versus Cass, 6 o'clock. Scully, this is a proper good game on paper, isn't it?
It's going to be a cracker, isn't it? Because two teams there who are on 100% winning so far this year. So one of them is going to lose the 100% record, and it should be a great game. You know, Cass, I'm really enjoying watching Cass this year, and that man again. You know, he's carrying where he left off from last year. I mean, Man of Steel, Paul McShane. I think he's just so influential for Castleford, and you know, let's hope for Castleford that they never have to play without him, because he's such an integral part of their team.
200% records on the line, as Scully's just said, Gareth, but I've got a feeling that Cass will probably be the more confident of the two going in.
Perhaps. I mean, Adrian Lamb, I think, would admit that they've not fully hit the straps yet, but I don't think he's panicking about that. I think they've been pretty solid in most games. French came back late. Hastings didn't start the season, did he? So I think when they get all the players back in a settled lineup, they're obviously going to improve. I think when you look at the names on both team sheets there, Paul's mentioned some then, and the guys on the Wigan team sheet as well, it just looks like a mouth-watering game, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then later on that day, we've got Giants versus Huddersfield versus Saints, which is the Sky game at 7:45. This is a pretty tough assignment for a Huddersfield team who are coming into this without winning the league this season, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I don't care what people say. They'll be thinking about losing 4 from 4. Nobody wants to start the season like that when they were widely being tipped as dark horses. It's a real test for them, and if they are going to be able to compete with top clubs this year, they're going to have to show us something, I think, because St Helens are so consistent that I wouldn't expect them to drop their levels much at all.
And the interesting thing about this one, Scully, is that you look at the way that Saints have started and the way that they play. This is where particularly those 2 new signings in Josh Jones, you've got Chris McQueen in there as well, Luke Yates, so the other one, they're going to have to step up to keep pace with the St Helens pack, aren't they?
Yeah, they certainly are. They're going to have to be mobile. They're going to have to be fit, to, like you said, to compete. But how many times do you see that it's probably a game that Huddersfield need to play against somebody where they know they've got to raise the game to be in the game? And it's certainly the form that Saints are on at the moment. So it's a big week for Huddersfield. It's not do or die yet. We're only week 4, but it could be ugly if they don't turn performances round.
Kicking off on Friday, 6 o'clock, Salford League. Gareth, we speak about Wigan Cast being 2 100% records. Well, this is 2 0% records. It's a big opportunity for one of those clubs, isn't it, to get some confidence and some momentum going?
It is, yeah. And as Paul said, we're not at do or die stage, are we, in round 4? But equally, I think both coaches will be looking at that game and thinking, I hope we don't come like that with 4 defeats from 4, because the pressure will start even at this early stage of the season. So it's a fascinating game. Salford should be favourites really, but we've seen little inklings of Lee that first half against Wigan of what they're capable of if they turn up and produce their best performance. I think it's a really interesting game, that one.
I'm a little bit disappointed now every time I see that Hull KR aren't on TV after the last few weeks. They play Leeds 6 o'clock Friday evening. They'll be full of confidence, Hull KR, Scully. They'll feel that they can win this game. Yeah, they will. They'll be full of confidence. And as Gareth mentioned it before about, obviously didn't lose on Golden Point again. They finally got that win, but what could have killed them as well was going 18-0 up and throwing a win away. But they managed to show resilience to do that, and they'll take a lot out of that. I'm a big fan of young Mikey Lewis as well at halfback. I think he creates a lot. He was fantastic, wasn't he? Yeah, he is. And to be honest, I've watched Mikey through the academies, and I'm a big fan. And I just think now getting his place in the team, and cementing that and performing like he did at weekend, he's just going to grow in confidence, and he's a big part of the team going forward. And Leeds, Gareth, some suggestion, as we've touched on earlier, they could have a lot of players back for this game, which for Richard Agar and his team will be, they'd have been waiting for this for a long time. They've been hit hard. Yeah, just to give him some options, because he's had to shuffle players around and play them out of position, particularly at half-back, where they've been missing several playmakers, haven't they? So I think just having those options will help him. And as we've mentioned, the guys that have played in their absence have done pretty well despite the defeats. They've stood up and had a crack. So the more players that come back in for Leeds, I think the more we'll see them improve in coming weeks. And then Hull FC versus Wakefield on Friday night as well. Scully, this feels like the kind of game that Hull FC of years gone by may have lost. Yes, I think it's a bit of a different Hull FC, this year. Obviously, Brett Hodgson in charge now, and I think they've started the season pretty well. They'll be disappointed to want to get the share of the spoils against Warrington. But it's a big game for them, and one that they certainly on current form that they'll put down to win. And the big blow for Wakefield, of course, going into this one, the news that Tom Johnson has been stood down for a few weeks after a few concussions. He's the focal point of their attack in many ways. He's their big threat, and Wakefield are going to have to work hard, I think, to get a result. Yeah, it's a real shame for Tom Johnson, isn't it? And so he started the season so well, didn't he, with those 2 fantastic tries at Leeds on the opening weekend, and people straight away were rightly talking about England and World Cup. So it is a setback for him. Hopefully it is only the 4 weeks and we see him back there. And in his absence, Wakefield are going to have to come up with points in different ways. And then finishing off the round, Catalans versus Warrington on Saturday. It's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock French time, 5 o'clock over here live on Sky. This one should be pretty good. Catalans are in good form, and Warrington, I don't really know at this point what they're going to produce week in, week out.
No, I think it's fair what Paul had said about being a disappointing start to the season overall, but that makes you think that at some point they're going to click, and when they do click with all those good players, they're going to be tough to beat. That could be on Saturday night. Catalans have never been the most consistent team, so we don't really know what we're going to get, but I'm sure it'll be exciting either way.
Catalans do seem to be making big strides forward. Warrington, though, for half an hour against Lee, Warrington were pretty untouchable in that game. So if we can get 80 minutes of that from both teams, this could be a really fun way to spend your Saturday afternoon.
We all know Warrington can play, and it's a team littered with with world-class players. But they've got to start being consistent. We say it year in, year out about Warrington, and is it their year to finally get success? And Catalan again, we talk about them, and they're showing a bit more consistency this year. And we mentioned about the spine of the team, Maloney, Drinkwater, and for me. And you said one of the best players in Super League at the moment. I think he's the best, is Sam Tompkins.
Well, we mentioned some of the big players in that Warrington team. They've got some big players littered throughout their history, none more so perhaps than Adrian Morley.
I played for 20 years at the top level and represented my country, went down under, extremely proud of the career. My earliest recollection of rugby league is when I went to high school, and I was coached by John Bartlett there, and he just was rugby league through and through. And I had my first game of rugby league, and I just fell in love with the sport straight away. It was it suited me more than football. People started taking note. Probably under 16s when I made the representative team, Lancashire. We had another player, Nathan McAvoy, who went on to have a fantastic career himself, and the lead scout come down looking at Nathan, and we played this game, and I impressed the scout, and he come up and said, like what we're seeing you, Adrian, and that's how I got the opportunity to sign for Leeds. And then in my first year there, I played academy, A team, and then first team, so I was only 17 when I made first team, so it was very young, and once I got in the first team, it was no looking back then. I lasted at Leeds for 6 seasons. I loved my time at Leeds, but my coach at the time, Graham Murray, he left Leeds and went to Australia to coach the Sydney Roosters, and he got on the phone and asked me would I go down under and play under him down there. And I was still only 23-year-old, but I thought if I don't go now, I might not get another opportunity to go. I was under no illusions how tough it was going to be, so and it was, it was very, very competitive, very tough, but I really enjoyed that side of the game, and a little black book, and it started off as a bit of a joke really. One of the opposition's forwards made a derogatory remark about the Roosters and about the forwards, and I just said don't worry, he's in the black book, and then I went out there and I smashed him all game, and then we come back in the changing rooms, and the week later Ricky Stewart come up to me and said, right, who's in the book this week? And I just looked at their forwards and just picked a random forward. I said, he's in the book. Again, he got the same treatment, and but then it was a standing joke then. People were coming up to me every week now saying who's in the book, and it was a bit of fun, but it was good for me because it gave me a bit of a goal, and the second year I was there, actually we won the grand final, and I joined an elite band of Englishmen to go down under and win a title. I decided to come back. My girlfriend, who's now my wife, was pregnant with our first child, and I was really impressed with what Warrington had to offer, in terms of they had a new stadium, and they had a vision. The owner, Simon Brown, had a vision, and spent 7 years at Warrington, and as captain, luckily we got our hands on the Challenge Cup 3 times, and made a grand final on 2 occasions without unfortunately getting the win. But yeah, my time at Warrington was really, really enjoyable. I did get the opportunity the last 2 years of me playing career to come home, as it were, and represent Salford, and it was just as special as I thought it would be, wearing the badge every week, and I still, wherever I played in the UK, I still lived in the Salford area, so it was great to represent Salford. I do feel we probably did underachieve in that first year, especially with the squad we had a fantastic squad. We probably underachieved, but it made it no less special for me representing the Red Devils. Of all the things I've done in my career, I think representing my country was by far the most proudest and most special moment of my career, and as a kid it was certainly was a dream come true. A 16-year international career, which I think that's a record, but as a 19-year-old that's when I made my debut, and I was 35 when I played my final test match and played over 50 test matches, which very, very proud of that, and each and every time, no matter who was playing against, I was so proud to represent either England or Great Britain.
Gareth, you would have covered Moz throughout his career. Always good for a headline on and off the field, it seemed.
Yeah, and just from a media point of view, just a down-to-earth bloke who, whenever you spoke to him or asked him a request for anything, he would always be exactly the same with you, level-headed. Even, when he was playing in Australia, he was one of the stars of the competition, wasn't he? But if you spoke to him, you wouldn't know any differently. Always really quotable and approachable. Very typical of a lot of the top rugby league players. And it's appreciated by the media, and obviously on the field his career speaks for itself.
Scotty, you've played with him and against him. What was he like?
Yeah, he was a world-class player, wasn't he? I think he played a very, very simple game. In attack, it was run over people, and it was defence, hit them as hard as you can, and that was the way that he played the game. And just a tremendous player, and to do what he did on both sides of the hemisphere. To be, I think, the first Englishman, wasn't he, to win a grand final in the NRL. And then obviously, win one in Super League as well. Just an outstanding player, pleasure to play with, certainly at international level.
And it's easy to be a little bit too nostalgic sometimes, isn't it? But I always think of him as one of those players of that generation of Great Britain players, kind of the early 2000s, that were just, trailblazing and taking the Aussies on and taking the Kiwis on and having a really good crack.
Yeah, it was a great time to play, and obviously we come through together, me and Moz from under nines. We played together at Great Manchester, and he's a very good friend of mine. And Gareth said it before, he's just a real down to earth, lovely bloke until he crosses the whitewash, and we all seen that in the first 12 seconds of the Test match against Australia, and I was running at side of him in the kick chase from the kick-off. But that's what he was. He was a competitor, and he wanted to win.
Well, yeah, Adrian Morley, legend of a player, legend of a bloke as well, and a legend at Bradford, Leeds and Warrington. All three of those clubs are in action this weekend in the Betfred Women's Super League Round 1.
Marsh waits. It was a good run from Costello. Now Burrows. Burrows back on the inside for Thompson, and Thompson! Is she going to get over? Brilliant try from Thompson. And they go to that left-hand side. And a big test coming up. Ball flung out wide, and they have touchdown. And Georgia Wilson has it in the corner. Manages to find an offload as well. Again to that left-hand side, and another try. Same result. Georgia Wilson. Burrows. And Burrows' pass for Temple, and Temple cruising through, and Temple goes in. Best chance so far for Warrington. Ball flung over the top, and they are going to go in. Warrington do get on the board, and it's Georgia Sutherland. That's one for Wigan, and they do go to the left-hand side where they've had some joy. Out wide, cut back inside there, 5 or so metres short, but that was amazing skill there. And now Temple on the back of it. Oh, Wigan going to strike another blow before the break, and they do exactly that. Thompson flings a ball. It's going to be too strong. Georgia Wilson in again. Finds Jackson. That's Simpson now. And Simpson has support on the outside. And Amy Daniels looking for the line. Amy Daniels, has she got over? Against a classy Wigan attack. Greenfield with it now. She's got space on the outside. She's going to go herself. And Greenfield will score. The Warriors 50 up. And that is the end of their first match in the elite level. It's been a comprehensive Wigan win, but Warrington and their coach Lee Westwood will take some real positives from the first hit out.
Gareth, bit by bit, we're getting back to normality, the game's getting back to normal, and having the women's game back is a big part of that, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, and I think what's been really encouraging this weekend is some of the media coverage that the women's game has got. I think aligning with Super League clubs has helped give it greater visibility, and people recognise the team names, and media outlets are certainly keen to cover women's sports in as much depth as possible, and I hope that Rugby League and the women's game can capitalise on that over the next couple of years.
And Scully, anytime you see a St Helens team put 86 points on the board, you're going to be pretty happy, aren't you?
Yeah, it was what a start to the year for the St Helens women. Tremendous performance there, and yeah, I agree with Gareth. Just to see the publicity that the game deserves, and because the girls deserve it. They work hard, and the game has come on leaps and bounds in the last few years, and it's great to see the publicity and the backing that the girls are getting now, and hopefully take it to the next level.
And of course, we've got a World Cup at the end of the year, so a big year for a lot of those players looking to get into that England side. Now, more so than Georgia Wilson of Wigan Warriors, she had an outstanding weekend, scoring 5 tries, and I think she's pretty pleased with the way things are going.
We've had quite a lot of time out, like every other team. Obviously, 2019 wasn't quite our season. 2018 was our first season together. We've had quite a few changes in the squad. So few players have gone to St Helens. We've got some new squad members in, and it's really good to see them pushing and working hard for a shirt. So I think we've just got to wait out and see how the game goes on Sunday, and then we can try and go from there.
Yeah, it should be a great year of Rugby League, of course, with that World Cup at the end of it, and a big opportunity for all 3 England sides, the men, women's and wheelchair, to make a big statement in the autumn. And of course, before that, it's just been announced today, England will play Fiji on the 15th of October in a place that I know is very close to your heart, Gareth, Rochdale. That's going to be a fantastic occasion, isn't it?
Yeah, terrific. I mean, just from an England point of view, that's a great opponent to have coming into the World Cup. Semi-finalists in the last 2 competitions. So that's great for Sean Ware's team. But for Rochdale point of view, the town has this long-standing association with the Fijian community dating right back to the 1960s when players came over to play for Rochdale Hornets. There's still a big Fijian community in the town. We saw that when they sold a World Cup game out in 2013, and you heard Fijian hymns in the stand. It was fantastic that night. So hopefully they'll get a bumper crowd. It's also the club's 150th anniversary this year. So I think Rugby League in general, the RFL, England, Rochdale, they've got this right, brought it all together, and it's a great story and a good build-up for England as well.
And Scully, you're obviously involved with the England setup. How important is it to have as many of these games before the real thing as you can? Yeah, definitely. Obviously, you want to be as best prepared as you can. Thankfully, we got the first training session under the belt last week over in Leeds, and obviously now to announce a warm-up game against Fiji, like Gareth said, semi-finalists in the last World Cup, and it's going to be a real test, going into what will be a great World Cup. Yeah, it's been a fantastic start to the season. I think you can definitely tell that there are plenty of players who are trying to mark down an England shirt at the end of the year, and there's been some real quality across the Betfred Super League, Championship, Women's Super League, Challenge Cup. So let's take a look at the contenders for this week's Try of the Week.
Hello and welcome to the Our League Try of the Week. I'm Dave Woods. Let's have a look at this week's contenders. Try number 1 this week, Zach Hardacre for Wigan against Leeds. This is absolutely instinctive. Sees the fullbacks in the line, little kick over the top, and the chase to finish, all in the blink of an eye. The execution of the kick is superb, and then he's over to finish a fine try, Zach Hardacre. Try 2, and you've never seen anything like this before. A try in just 7 seconds for Ben Crook's Hull Kingston Rovers against Huddersfield. The quickest ever Super League try. What is it they say about never let a ball bounce? Well, Huddersfield defenders with plenty of egg on faces, but Ben Crooks keeps up the chase and touches down for his moment in the history books. One more look. Not that the Huddersfield players will want to look at it too many times, and Ben Crooks is there. It was, of course, the start of the Women's Super League season this week. We saw lots of great tries. This one from Vicky Molyneux in a demolishing of Warrington by Wigan. Great game up at the Recreation in what you might describe as a local derby between Whitehaven and Newcastle, though Workington might have a thing to say about that. This was one of the eye-catching tries in that game, finished in the end by Andrew Bullman after that inch-perfect kick and a bit of sloppy defending. Comfortable win for Castleford against Lee, and it also gives us try number 5 this week. Jake Truman is the person who eventually finishes, but great acceleration in the build-up here from Jordan Turner in the first instance. Look at him go, and anyone can go any faster? Jake Truman can, to score by the sticks. And And finally, try number 6. This was a classic game. Bradford against Halifax, and Brandon Pickersgill is the scorer of this try. Look at the running here, the evasion, the swerve on the outside, plenty of pace going on here, and Pickersgill going all the way to the line. Super stuff. You know what you've got to do, so get voting for this week's Try of the Week.
Yeah, some absolute belters in there. It's been a fantastic week of Rugby League. Some great games in the Championship. 4 unbeaten records still going in that league. And Sheffield Eagles mixing it with the big boys. Toulouse, of course, top of the table. Gents, feels like we've done a lot of talking because there's been a lot to talk about. It's been a fantastic week in Rugby League, and we're now just into that part of the season, Gareth. It's thick and fast, and it's a lot of fun every week, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the quality on the field has been really good. But I think, the fact that we're talking about women's game, Championship, Super League, right across the board after last year, when obviously we were restricted to how much Rugby League we saw, to have everything back and then the community game coming back, the whole sport feels like it's coming back together with a World Cup to look forward to. It's definitely an exciting time for the sport.
And Scully, we're nearly there every week. I feel like we say this, but we're so close to having spectators back in those stadiums. What a feeling that's going to be in about a month's time, eh?
Yeah, it's how good is it going to be? We said we've been very fortunate to be able to pick up the games on TV, but there is nothing like a live crowd, and certainly for the players taking part. So, can't wait to get back to a stadium and see a live game.
Scully, Gareth, thank you for joining us. What a week it was. What a week it's set to be. We've got Betfred Super League action, Championship action, and we've got some Women's Challenge Cup in there as well. And we'll be back next Tuesday with the last tackle.